Hi, and welcome to episode 77 of the Path to Profit podcast. I'm Brad Dobson with my lovely wife, Dr. Minette Riordan.
Woo!
She's excited.
I am. I love this topic.
And we are wrapping up goal setting month of December and flowing into business planning month of January. And today's title is
Dun, 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 drum roll. Our 7 best goal setting strategies just for creatives.
perfect, because that's what we need and that's what we think you need.
And it's what we are, right? I think more importantly that it's who we are being on a daily basis is creative in the way we approach our business. And what we've discovered is that the way people traditionally do goal setting, and we'll talk even more about this in January with business planning, doesn't necessarily work for those of us who are struggling with bright, shiny ideas and a million plans and dreams.
I could set a goal a minute, I think.
Which is actually probably a really good thing to do, because if you had to set a goal a minute, right, you really would realize you couldn't accomplish that.
Yeah.
Which is a great lead into our quote this week, which is from Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins wrote, "Setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible." And I love that quote.
That's neat. I guess we could dive into that or parse that a little bit. The invisible. What's invisible about a goal or something before you set it as a goal?
So it's just a dream. It doesn't have any tangible footing in the real world, right? And if so the example that totally popped into my head was Brad and I lived in Plano, Texas for 13 years. And we talked a lot about moving away over and over and over again. But it was just a dream. It was just an idea. And it didn't become visible and it didn't become real until we actually set a moving date. And one of our friends, the awesome Erica Yeager, was like, "Oh my God, you guys have been talking about it for so long. I never thought you'd do it. You're really not moving, are you?"
Yeah, a lot of talk and not a lot of action.
A lot of talk and not a lot of action. So the thing about setting goals, and I think, and you and I were talking about this before the show, what the distinction is between goals and resolutions is, to me, a resolution is something that you do a lot of talking about you're going to do, and then you've already, maybe even by mid-January, forgotten you were even talking about it.
Right.
But a goal, as we're going to share with you, is pretty specific. Usually has a date associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a different level of commitment for me personally when I say I not only have this goal, but I'm committed to accomplishing it by a certain date.
Right. And I'm going to actually put things in action
and into my calendar
related to achieving that goal, as opposed to just this amorphous or nebulous resolution that you put out there, but then don't take any steps towards it.
So all of our notes for our outlines, you can see this if you're watching us on YouTube, but we'll just share with you, are you listening? Or I have this awesome notepad that has vocabulary words, because one of the things you probably don't know about Brad and I is we're total word junkies.
Yep.
Other people collect matchbooks. I love words. I've actually always been a word collector. And one of the words on as we were planning the outlines for a couple of podcast episodes today, was nebulous, definitely.
This is true. And I got pernicious for my notes.
And the one on this one is raillery, which probably is totally appropriate to the conversation. And raillery, RAILLERY, is good-natured ridicule or banter. So banter, sorry. I'd like to hope that this podcast is about good-natured banter and not ridicule.
Exactly. Let's get on to number 1 in our 7 best goal setting strategies for creatives.
Go for it.
And that is to make time for planning. And this
is too much time.
Not too much time. Yeah, Minette and I are definitely guilty of over planning. We talk things to death, but it's fun. It's a lot of it's kind of mental gymnastics that we enjoy. Sort of a visioning type of thing. So the thing about this step, this goal setting strategy, is that you really need space for it, mental space for it, physical space for it, literally table space for it, and some time space, if that makes sense. You can't just plan for 15 minutes here or there. You need something expansive so that you're actually able to dig into these things.
Yeah, and we actually recommend doing this once a quarter. Right now, at the end of the year, is an obvious time to be looking at goal setting. And we have an episode coming in a couple of weeks about quarterly project planning, and we'll talk more about that. But we really think it's important to consistently and regularly sit down and review your goals and set new goals, right? Because some of our goals are going to be short term, some are going to be longer term. I am a big fan of having offsite meetings, like go to a hotel, go to a library, not a coffee shop where it's noisy. I think you want some quiet and some privacy. And you could do this alone. You could take a private personal retreat. Obviously, we would go together and
Exactly.
do that planning. You could also take your whole team, right? We now have a team. I think there's 5 of us at the moment, 6
Something
if you
like that.
count Connor.
Yeah, right.
Connor's our son, and we could invite them all to participate in quarterly planning or in annual planning, and we could do that using Zoom, which is one of our favorite tech tools that we didn't put on our tech list for our
Exactly.
next episode
Got to
that's
remember that.
coming. But making time is super playful, and Brad made a reference to having table space to do that, because one of the things that we highly recommend for creatives is do not try to plan in a linear, bullet pointed, date specific fashion yet. We highly encourage getting giant sheets of paper, big cheap kids drawing pads, or pads of newsprint works really well. You can get it at the dollar
Butcher
store.
paper.
Butcher paper works great. And a bunch of markers, crayons, and sticky notes. And have the first part of your planning process be super intuitive and more of a brain dump about all the things that you're dreaming, intending, resolving, hoping for in 2018.
Yeah, and give yourself also, as Minette alluded to earlier, give yourself a chance to look at 2018 as a whole.
Yeah.
But we really want to look at, like we said in a previous podcast about setting mini goals, look at a quarter. Look at what you can get done in a quarter and try slicing that up. 2018 might be an awfully big chunk to get your arms around.
But you need the big goals. Like, I'm a big fan of having annual goals, quarterly goals.
Mm-hmm.
This is like chunking it down from the big vision all the way down to what's the one step I need to do today.
Yep.
So annual goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, daily goals, maybe even by the minute goals, but maybe not.
That's a little bit too much.
That would be way too much. But what we've noticed is the more that you can make the creative space to do the brain dump and to do it on these big sheets of paper, you can see what's possible. And everybody can have an opportunity to look at all the ideas and collaboratively really make some educated guesses about how to sequence your ideas. Because the thing about us creatives, we don't lack ideas. We have tons of bright, shiny ideas all the time. And all of our ideas have value, but it's really understanding how to sequence those ideas, like which one needs to come first, which one is going to be easiest and fastest and effortless to monetize first is often something that we look at with our clients, which leads me right into goal setting strategy number 2.
Know your numbers. Know your
numbers.
Your financial numbers. Yeah, all numbers. Financial numbers, your attendance numbers, your
email list numbers,
maybe your
Facebook
social
following.
media following numbers, in terms of where they stand, where they've been, and where you want them to go as part of your goals.
Yeah, and we'll be digging a lot more into the whole concept of knowing your numbers and how to set the right financial goals when we talk more about quarterly project planning in January. But for now, we just cannot say enough. It's actually part of our one-page business planning process, is to start with your financial goals first and then figure out how you're going to get there. Because if you just start with the things that you want to launch, like maybe you want to write a book in 2018, and writing a book is a great idea, can create a lot of visibility, but not necessarily a lot of cash unless you're really intentional about the role that it's going to play in your marketing and promotions. So just noticing that each of the goals that you set for your business need to be tied to your bottom line.
Definitely. Moving on to number 3, be specific in your goal. As a goal setting strategy, be specific. And of course, you've heard of SMART goals, and the very first word in the SMART acronym is specific. You need to actually tie a date to when the goal will be complete. Tie a number to, whether that's, like I said, an attendance number at an event, a dollar number for the income from a promotion, a percentage increase in your social media following, whatever that may be.
Yeah, for us, one of our key numbers that we're consistently tracking and working very hard to increase is our email list, right? Because the more that we can build that community, then the more that we have a fun tribe to play with, and the more that actually increases our bottom line. So for us, the number of subscribers to our email list is a really important number.
So when we're being specific, this is something that I've seen Manette train people up on before, and I can't remember exactly where you were introduced to it, but you're allowed some leeway in terms
It
of.
was Marisa Murgatroyd. That's
Yeah,
where the
maybe.
concept came from first.
But you're allowed some leeway, and in fact, you can be intentional and specific about the leeway you have in the number that you want to achieve. And so what you're going to do is you're going to set a minimum goal, a target goal, and a stretch goal. The stretch one should feel like it's barely achievable and maybe, give you butterflies in your stomach. The min one would be, I just got to do this to have it be,
To make it worth it.
make it worthwhile. And the target is in the middle of those. I would suggest that the target shouldn't be totally easy. But
No,
it's
we
a
can-
lot,
and we
it's a
can
lot,
share
a lot more
really-
achievable than the stretch goal.
We can share a really fun example from one of our clients who was hosting a live event earlier this year. And the minimum goal of attendees that she wanted on the event would just cover her cost for the event.
Right. So
right?
break
So it was
even
a
number.
break even number. And then the target goal was like her dream of how many she would love to have in the room. It would not only cover all of our costs, she would actually make some money on the event and have a larger pool of people to make her upsell offer to. And then her stretch goal was really scary for her, because she thought, what am I going to do if I have that many people in the room? Can I actually teach that many people? Can I create the space for that? And she totally blew her stretch goal out of the water.
Very nice.
It was awesome, but it was that clarity around how many people she wanted in the room. One, in order to, because she knew her numbers, to cover her cost, to be able to make a profit on the event, and to have the right number of women in the room to then fill a group program that she was offering. So it was super specific about not only the number of people, but what having that number of people in the room would net her at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you bring up another good point, or it came up in my mind, is that specificity when you're setting the goals early on is something that gets set in your mind. And later on in another episode, we'll talk a little bit about, or maybe on a blog post, we'll talk a little bit about visualization. But that's the number that you unconsciously are focused on for the next whole quarter. It's in your mind. That number is in your mind. And so when you're making decisions, you're making them in the context of knowing that number. And it means that you don't, buy a hotel or get a hotel room that's too small because it needs to fit that target number, or similar types of things. You don't underbuy a Facebook ad because you'll never achieve the number that you want with a small ad buy, that type of thing. So specificity. We didn't talk about accountability as it relates to that.
I'm getting there, but I was making a note. I'm scrambling over here because I don't think we have one scheduled to talk about the power of guided visualization and imagery to help you actually attain your goals. And that would be a really good one, or maybe we'll do a fun bonus one before the end of the year.
Absolutely.
On that one, because that's
I'll set that in my mind.
Topic.
I have that intention now. I'm visualizing it.
And then after this call, we'll schedule a date to make it happen. Like that's how the process works. Brad had an idea. I'm like, that's a great idea. So we're like, okay, write it down. Now let's put a date to it and get it recorded and make it happen. Right. So these processes of really, I think the thing for goal setting strategies for creatives is, how do we go from idea to action? And that's the most important piece. So we talked about having the goals be super specific, having numbers associated with them, having dates associated with them. But the third part of that be specific is who is going to hold you accountable. Are you great, super driven about holding yourself accountable and you don't need an external accountability partner? That's not me personally. I always need an accountability partner, whether it's weight loss or Ironman training or business planning. So do you have a girlfriend, a spouse, a business partner,
I
or
do
a
not have a
coach?
girlfriend. Sorry.
I'm so glad to hear that. I was starting to worry a little bit about where all your time was
That's
going.
right.
That distraction piece you've been talking a lot about, is that what's
Yeah,
happening? Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, you're hilarious.
So a coach.
A coach, yes, not a girlfriend. So anyway, a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any friends?
Yes.
You do? You have
Yes.
friends? So a friend should have numbers, it should have a date, and an accountability partner. As business coaches, we find one of the most important aspects of the programs that we do with our clients is that accountability piece, making sure that you're doing what you're saying you're going to do. And if it doesn't happen, why not? Sometimes it could be life happens, kids got sick, you got sick, so you slip a deadline. But sometimes it brings up mindset issues, fear, right? I say I'm going to go look for speaking engagements, but I haven't actually scheduled time in my calendar to go do the research and submit those applications. Why not? Right? So really looking at the mindset piece of that. And after you have made time for planning, looked at your numbers, gotten really specific, the next most important piece is
To write the dang things down.
Yeah, write your goals down.
Journal them. Write them in giant. Have them posted in giant pieces of
Tell them
paper on
about
the.
your piece of paper on the top of the staircase for your Ironman
That's right.
training.
I have a big sheet of whatever size that paper that is, the kids' drawing paper, with stuff related to or phrases related to how I'm going to that day work towards being an Ironman athlete, and inspirational things for me, and my race stickers from previous races, and I reach up and hit that thing every time I walk down the stairs. It's a reminder. So writing these things down and having them posted somewhere is critical. It's not helpful in any way to set a goal and walk away from it. That's kind of like the resolutions we were talking about earlier, where you know, drunkenly chime in for your New Year's resolutions at the end of January 1st and then never look at them again. You got to write this stuff down and have it visible to you so that it's in your mind daily and unavoidable. It's okay if you bust on a goal and it's just not going to work. We're all adults, but if you have something out there in front of you, um, it needs to be front of mind.
It does. And another way to do that, and Jack Canfield has some great stories about this in his book, The Success Principles. It's one of my favorite all-time business books. But write it on an index card. And for guys, you could stick it in your wallet. Ladies, you could stick it in your wallet or in your purse. But making sure that there's somewhere where you can literally access them on a daily basis and read them. So in the second aspect of once you write your goals down is to either say and preferably, I would say and preferably say them out loud and or blah, 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 read them, right? But literally the more that you speak your goals out loud, the more likely they are to stay top of mind. You're less likely to get distracted and actually carry them out. And the next aspect of this that I love doing, maybe I'll even get you to do one this year, how fun would that be, is to create a vision board.
This is a different version of writing it down.
It's a visual version of writing it down. And one of the things that I know about creatives is that if it's not visual, playful, colorful, creative, and fun, and hanging in front of us, we're going to forget about it. If it gets put in a drawer, or if you write your goals in a Google Doc or a Word document, you're never going to go look at them again. They have to be integrated with your daily life. So Brad has a combination of writing and imagery on his big sheet of paper he was sharing with you. I love vision boards, and I actually challenge you to create a vision board without words. Because what I see happen so often with vision boards is that people just cut a bunch of headlines and things out of magazines, and that's great. But to be really intentional about how do you want to feel when these goals are complete, right? A vision board for me is this tangible mood setting, kinesthetic way to connect to the feeling, the colors, and the other aspects of your goal in addition to words.
Yeah, and it's once again, it's setting it in your mind.
Yeah. And it's
Um,
fun. They're super fun to create.
that's
I've,
right.
I've got a couple of great blog posts. I'll put a link to a couple of the blog posts in the show notes on how to create a vision board in case you've never created one.
Cool. So vision boards was number 5. Number 6 is to get feedback. I added this one to the list because I'm someone who overanalyzes things, and I really struggle sometimes
No comment.
with with setting big goals. And so what I do once I'm pissed off at myself having taken all this time for internal analysis is to work with friends, allies, family, ask them about whether the goal makes sense. People are going to have different unique perspectives. Hopefully if you have team or a business partner, or someone in your mastermind, those are the people to ask about your goals. um, they will very quickly ask you specific questions about specific outcomes. So you'll know really quick if your goal is too nebulous, if it simply doesn't have the specificity that it needs. If you come to me and ask about some, I don't know, whatever type of statement that you're making, that, hey, I want to do this in 2018. um, the first thing I'm going to ask is, well, when do you want to have it done by? How much are you going to spend for it? How much money is it going to make you? Does it relate to your big why? All of those types of things. But there are, I hope for you that there are people, whether it's your spouse or partner or whatever it is, there are people that you can bounce things off of.
Absolutely. Or a business coach. I'm a huge fan of coaching. We talked about that on the show before. Matt Miller talked about that a lot on his episode about his mastermind group. But having a safe place, family is not always the best place to share your goals, right? You need to share your goals with people who are going to support you and poke holes in it, right? They're going to be willing to ask you some of those hard questions, like Brad mentioned.
Yeah, and you might, that could even be a great Facebook group that you're in. There's
Mhm.
always somebody out there on the interwebs that's sitting around their desk and it wants to give their opinions. So you can get opinions fast.
Yeah, awesome. And then number 7 on our list of 7 best goal setting strategies for creatives is to share your goal publicly. Don't keep it a secret.
Got to put it out there.
You've got to put it out there. And we're not saying that you need to go post publicly on your Facebook page that you want to make $500,000 next year, or you want to make your first $10,000 next year, right? Any number that you want to make is great. But what we're saying is that you're putting out there, hey, I've got some amazing goals for my business this year. And I will know those goals are accomplished when, and I'm asking for your support. You could do that in terms of number of new clients, or the reach and the impact that you want to have, or that you're challenging yourself to get to 50,000 followers on Instagram. Whatever it is, find a place to share it publicly. And again, this could be in a Facebook group, someplace that's safe and supportive. It doesn't have to be blasting it all over social media. And if you're not a fan of social media, tell 10 friends, right? Ask 10 friends to just hold the vision and intention with you. So I have done that pretty successfully with some of my friends, helped my brother and sister-in-law a couple of times, where we collectively got together and shared goals and intentions and held the vision for each other. And it's pretty amazing the results of that. We heard a really fun one. We were at an amazing transformational leaders retreat for successful coaches in the coaching industry last week. And one of our friends had a baby this year, and she shared that 2 years previously, she had stood around the Christmas tree with some of the other colleagues and set the intention by when she wanted to have a baby, and it totally happened, right? So by the time this time last year, she was pregnant, and now she has a adorable 6-month-old
Yep.
who we got to meet this weekend or last week as well.
And that sharing publicly, once again, it's like the writing it down, putting it in a vision board. It's setting those intentions in your head, external to you, out in the world. It's what you're
Mhm.
putting out there. And that comes back around to you. It's a bit of a feedback loop in terms of spiraling up towards this goal. But it's not going to happen if it's not something that you're shouting out and putting your intention and the full weight of your conscious and unconscious efforts behind it.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to do just a quick recap, and we'll also have one of our sketch notes in the show notes with a recap as well. But the 7 best goal setting strategies for creatives: make time for planning. The whole thing starts there. Without time, you'll just be starting the new year behind the gun already. So make time for planning. Know your numbers, right? Your financial numbers, as well as your other important business numbers. Be as specific as possible. Write your goals down in multiple places so that you can see them on a regular basis. Make a vision board that is focused on imagery, not words, in order to capture the feeling of the goals. Get feedback from friends, colleagues, or coaches, and share publicly in a safe place what it is that you want to accomplish that adds to the intentionality, to the law of attraction, and just to the moral support from colleagues saying, hey, how's it going? How can I support you in making that goal happen?
Very nice. And I think we have a resource that we can send people to get them on the path towards setting appropriate and effective goals for their creative business.
Yep, absolutely, which is our Creative Business Archetype quiz. We've talked about it on the show before, but it's been quite a while. And in this quiz, we help you determine whether or not you're actually building the right business model. It's really impossible to set goals if you don't know what your business model is. Like, what are the right numbers? What are the right strategies? What are the right offers you should be making? What are the right marketing strategies you should be using? So it's a super fun tool. I absolutely love it and I'm super, super proud of it.
Yeah,
And
people definitely like it.
It's totally free, right? We will ask for your email, so maybe it's not free.
That's right.
Right? But it's one of the ways that we build our community. We're totally transparent about that. But it will also give you great insight into, are you building the right business that's absolutely a match for your creative personality? And you can find that at pathtoprofitacademy.com/quiz. Super easy. pathtoprofitacademy.com/quiz.
And we'll have that in the show notes.
And we'll have it in the show notes. And then once you take the quiz, or even before you take the quiz, we have an awesome Facebook group where we would love for you to come and share your goals and share them publicly in a safe place and let us help hold you accountable for them. It's the Mentors, Makers, and Mavericks Facebook community.
Good stuff.
Yeah, awesome, super fun show.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, we forgot to tell them.
What did we forget to tell them?
About what we're going to be talking about in the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
So we're really
next month.
We're really upping our own game and learning to get prepared and not work like total creatives who are constantly scrambling and be more intentional in our planning. And so again, transparency, right? We are creatives and we have many of the same struggles and challenges that you do. And so what we hope is that from these episodes, like we said last time, you're going to hear a lot more from just Brad and I, and what's working and what are we using in terms of technology and strategies to make sure that we are staying on track and staying on that path to profit. So you want to share what episode number 78 is, or do you want me to? Because this is like your baby. You're so excited about this episode.
Well, I think we were going to just say that the next month's theme flows from our goal setting theme this month, which is business planning. All next month, business planning. So, but yeah, we're going to talk about technology next week.
And specifically about our favorite online business planning tools. These are the things that we'll
geek out a little bit.
Yeah, especially him. He is the geek when it comes to technology anyway. So these are the specific tools, automation tools, online tools that we use to stay in touch with our team, to communicate with each other, and to stay on track and on task with everything we need to do to make the Path to Profit Academy continue to grow and flourish. And now I think we're done.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time on episode number 78.
Bye, guys.